The medal that we have here is Betts 42, the Conquest of St. Christopher. Now, this medal was not struck in 1666, although that is the date that's normally associated with it. In fact, a lot of the French colonization medals weren't struck when the events happened. Most were struck after 1702, except for the ones commemorating events that happened just prior to 1702. We know this one's a restrike because it has a privy mark on the side. The medal here is 41 millimeters in size, and it features a portrait of Louis XIV on the obverse. The reverse is full of significant imagery. First of all, we have a native woman holding a shield of France. At her feet is the shield of Great Britain. Tobacco plants are to the side. Now, let's get into the history of this medal a little bit. St. Kitts, originally named St. Christopher by Christopher Columbus during his second voyage in 1493, became an important island for European colonization in the Caribbean. Although the English king, James I, granted a patent for its settlement in 1620, it wasn't until 1623 that Sir Thomas Warner and a group of English settlers arrived and negotiated with the indigenous Carib population. A couple of years later, French settlers also arrived, and by 1627, the island was split between the French and the English, leading to a very unique cohabitation between the two European powers. Tensions grew between the native Caribs and the European settlers as the population of the island increased. The Caribs, feeling threatened, devised a plan to eliminate the foreigners. However, their plot was revealed by a native woman, leading the French and English to unite against the Caribs. The Europeans invited Carib leaders to a feast. They intoxicated them, and afterwards massacred around 120 of them in their sleep. The next day, over 2,000 more were killed, and those who survived were enslaved. This brutal event allowed the French and English settlers to put aside their differences and work together. Initially, the settlers focused on cultivating tobacco, ginger, and indigo. However, when the prices of these crops plummeted due to overproduction, they shifted to sugarcane in the early 1640s. By the end of that decade, sugarcane plantations had made St. Kitts one of the most prosperous islands in the New World. Unfortunately, the intensive labor required for sugarcane production resulted in very high mortality rates among workers, prompting the importation of enslaved African peoples. Relations between the French and English settlers deteriorated during the Second Anglo-Dutch War, as their home countries were warring against each other. On April 22, 1666, the French launched an attack on the English, gathering a force of 800 soldiers and 200 enslaved African people. Despite an English ambush that caused significant French casualties, the French regrouped and overran the island, forcing the English settlers to flee to the nearby island of Nevis. However, the English reclaimed their holdings on St. Kitts after the Treaty of Breda in 1667. St. Kitts played a strategic role in the Caribbean due to its location and fertile land, making it a prime target for European powers. Its division between France and England symbolized the intense competition among European nations for control of the Caribbean. The island's sugar plantations became highly profitable, contributing to its significance in the colonial economy and driving the demand for enslaved African labor. The conflict on St. Kitts reflects broader European rivalries and their brutal exploitation of indigenous and African populations that characterized the colonial expansion in the Americas.